Jimmy, we apologize. We hit the button. That's how we normally start streaming out to multiple platforms. But there was an error with connecting to our Facebook platform page.
Well, let me ask you this:
So,
do we need to start from scratch because that means that nobody's heard anything, right?
well, we could start over if you want to.
You know
So,
what?
why don't you start over with the birthdays?
Okay, why don't we do this? Are we on now?
Yes, we're on now.
Okay, well, in that case, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and get everything started. Um, Good evening, everyone. It is November the 1st, 2023, Jimmy. And if it is Wednesday night,
Then it's certainly Black Men Speak.
all
And
right,
so
folks,
let's, oh, go ahead, Tom.
we apologize for the technical difficulty. We are just jumping on, but we're going to go ahead and get this party started. We want to thank everybody who has joined thus far. And of course, we're going to start out with our birthdays starting in the month of November. So first, November the 1st, for those of you who are old school rap fans, you might remember this face, Willie D from the Ghetto Boys.
From Houston, out of Houston, yes.
Absolutely. So happy birthday to Willie D. Today is his birthday. Hopefully he is out having a good time someplace. Happy birthday to the great Willie D. November the 2nd, for those of you who are old school rap fans, you might remember this face, Nelly, most famous for his song Hot in Her.
Hot in Her, yes.
All right, that's November the 2nd. And for those who are watching NFL football for a while, the newbies probably don't know this face, but Jimmy, we certainly do. The Colin Kaepernick.
Yes, taking the knee to stand for justice.
Exactly. Exactly. Former quarterback and Super Bowl quarterback, Colin Kaepernick, because he did lead the San Francisco 49ers to a Super Bowl, even though they did not win that particular one. He did lead them there. November the 4th, our next birthday, Jimmy, music mogul and probably one of the most powerful men in entertainment, Sean Puffy Combs.
Puffy Daddy, yes.
Puff Daddy, or about 3 or 4 or 5 different names that we know him by. All right, next, Jimmy, we are going to celebrate the Odell Beckham, formerly of the LA Rams, formerly of the New York Giants. We don't know what team is going to be on next, but he always stretches the field when he is on there. So he's a dangerous man when you get him on your field.
Yes, he is. He can be.
Exactly. And last but definitely not least, the beautiful, enchanting, and very talented Thandie Newton.
Ditto on both of those, Tom. Very talented and very beautiful.
Absolutely. So these are all of our first week November birthdays, 2023. For those of you who have November birthdays, you may share a birthday with these folks. Of course, we wish everyone who has a birthday within the next week a very happy and blessed birthday. Go out, have a good time, eat, drink, and be merry. So with that being said, we have a couple of folks who are on the chat line, so we want to give a couple of shout outs to the folks on the chat line. First, we have Ms. Tanya Hall of KGGR Radio, giving you the news in the community every day in the morning and afternoon. We have the commish, Brother Ed Gray, the old school blue blood of politics in our local community. Brother Ed Gray, definitely welcome, and thank you for joining us this evening. Audrey K. Cuz out of the DFW area, I want to thank you for joining us this evening. And I'm sure we're going to have a few other folks who are going to join us later in the day, but we want to get our shout outs early. We, of course, welcome all of you to give us your thoughts, your ideas as to some of these news stories that we're going to be sharing with you, and let us know what your thoughts are about.
Yeah, this show is equally your show as well as our show. And Tom, since you mentioned the commish, Ed had Sam Muhammad on his show a few weeks ago, probably about a month ago. And going into election year next year, we'd like to see if we can reach out to Ed and see if he can facilitate getting Mr. Muhammad to come on our show, talk about his bid for Dallas County Sheriff.
That sounds good. We'll definitely see if we can make it happen. Of course, watch the commish radio show on Saturday.
Yes, good show, people.
All right, Jimmy. Let's go ahead and get into the meat and potatoes of our show for this evening.
Let's do what we do.
All right, Jimmy. First, we're going to talk youth and education spotlight. So we had a young man that just found out about, interesting article about a young man who has actually developed a soap that helps to treat skin cancer. So this is a young man that you're going to probably see in the future doing things. He's already doing things great right now, and you're going to probably see him doing a lot more things in the future, Jimmy. 14-year-old Virginia man, young boy, who is named America's top young scientist after a soap bar designed to treat skin cancer, Heman Bekele.
And Tom, see, once again, this is what bothers me with our public school system. And this is why I encourage people to seriously consider taking your children out of the public school system and either homeschool or charter school if possible. Tom, we have so much potential in our kids that's being wasted. And this is another, we chronicle these kids all the time on this show and the great accomplishments. And Tom, this should be everyday news for us. Actually, this shouldn't even be news. This should be so much of a common occurrence in our community that we should get tired of talking about it. All of our kids are capable of achieving at this level. There's not just a few. With the right motivation, Tom, all of our kids can do this. And so we need to encourage our kids to be motivated for greatness, Tom, and go out and do great things. Let them know you expect them to do great things, not just go to school, eat lunch, and chit chat with friends.
As they say, if you shoot for the stars, even if you don't reach the stars, you still
Even
get
if you just land on the moon, only 8 people have been to the moon. So
right.
yes.
But to tell you a little bit more about this story of this amazing young man, Heman Bekele, he's a ninth grader out of Annandale, Virginia, who won the prestigious 3M and Discovery Education Award, considered one of the country's top middle school science competitions. The student from Frost Middle School, he earned the title after winning the 2023 award, a competition where middle schoolers across the nation, not the state, but the nation, submit a video communicating a scientific solution for an everyday problem. It took him about 8 months to create the idea, a basic prototype, and finish the video for his skin treating soap.
Okay.
Said soap has cancer fighting chemicals that treat the skin, and he hopes to start a nonprofit organization to provide equitable and accessible treatment to as many people as possible. In addition to the prestigious title, he also won $25,000 in cash.
And Tom, we don't realize what potential. I mean, every generation has their issues, and every future generation has to solve problems in order to advance our species forward. And we don't know what we're missing out on by not motivating our kids for success. So, I mean, do these parents know that maybe the next cure for skin cancer was right in their home? But if you don't push your kids to live up to their potential and to exercise that, then you never know. So parents, please stop thinking that your children are not worthy or capable. I don't know whoever told you that your kids can't compete with the Asian kids have told you wrong. Your kids can not only compete with them, you can outcompete them. And so motivate your kids and push them for success, and don't settle for anything less than their absolute best.
I would agree, Jimmy, with you.
14 years old, Tom.
Exactly. You have to set the bar. You got to set the bar very, very high, Jimmy. So congratulations again to this young man. We're looking for great things from him. And of course, we wish him the best of luck. Next thing, we talk about Black girl magic. We'll talk about Black woman magic today, because two of our greats, the great Ida B. Wells and Althea Gibson, are going to be on U.S. currency starting in 2025, Jimmy. This is actually a part of an initiative by the U.S. Mint that has announced a list of 5 women who are going to be on U.S. coins starting in the next, I guess, a little bit over a year. And Ida B. Wells and Althea Gibson, 2 of our greats in U.S. history, are going to be on.
What coin are they going to be on, Tom?
They're going to, I'm sorry, repeat that?
What coin?
The quarter.
The quarter, okay.
Exactly. And so the 2025 coins will be the last in a set of 4-year 20-coin productions runs that will celebrate the importance of women in America. And, they, along with Girl Scout founder Juliette Gordon Lowe, disabilities activist Stacey Park Milburn, and astronomer Vera Rubin will be on these coins. These pioneering women are going to be acknowledged and recognized by the U.S. Mint.
Well, there'll be 2 coins I'm going to collect and keep, Tom.
Same here. And these were chosen by Janet Yellen of the U.S. Treasury in partnership with the Smithsonian American Women's History Museum.
That's about the only thing our Treasury Secretary has done right, where they jacked up this economy. But hey, this decision was a good decision. So
Gotcha.
I give her partial credit for this one.
Right. And again, for those out there who study your history, you already know this, but Ida B. Wells, of course, was an activist. She was a co-founder of the NAACP, which a lot of people sleep on because they usually think of W.E.B. Du Bois, but they don't realize that Ida B. Wells was also a co-founder of the NAACP. And of course, she was an activist that wrote many articles, on the lynching of Black men in America in the early part of the 20th century.
Well, Tom, she's noted for me because she was one of the few journalists that were brave enough to go up against the Woodrow Wilson administration for the things that he promised to do for Black people, and they reneged on him. So once you got the Black vote, got into office, and then him and his brother turned their back and set race relations back at least 70 years in this country. So she's a hero to me because she was brave enough to actually write about it and bring it to their attention.
Right. And Althea Gibson, the all-time great, became the first Black athlete to play tennis at its highest level, was also the first Black woman to win a Grand Slam in 1956. She won the Wimbledon twice and is an International Tennis Hall of Fame and Sports Hall of Fame inductee. So again, we think, of course, of Venus and Serena Williams, but really Althea Gibson was the foundation.
Yes, she opened the door.
So her and Ida B. Wells will be on the coin. So make sure, that you're putting your roadmap on this, because when these coins out, Jimmy, we're going to all have to get a copy of these these coins, in order that we can keep them as a national treasure.
Yes, Tom. We all need to become what they call it, numismatics, the collection of coins.
Absolutely. So,
yes.
All right, Jimmy,
collect those 2 coins.
Right. So let's go ahead and move to part entertainment, part business. Of course, most folks that we've talked about, of course, the great Golden State Warriors before. Anybody who watches basketball knows about the great Steph Curry. But some things that you may not know is that he is actually building his own brand with Under Armour, and just recently signed De'Aaron Fox of the great NBA Sacramento Kings.
Okay.
He's a little bit early in his career, but just over.
You got to get him young, Tom. Get him early.
Exactly. Over the past week, we just discussed Andre Iguodala and what he's doing in business. And this is Steph Curry building his own brand by inking his first player, DeAndre Fox.
Yeah, when they get to the top of their game, Tom, they cost more. So maybe you roll the dice early on some of these players.
Right. So De'Aaron Fox just made the jump to the Curry brand after closing out a 5-year deal with the sports giant Nike. And I'm pretty sure he had his options available to him, but he hopefully saw something a little bit further out with the great Steph Curry.
Cool.
Under Armour has established Steph Curry on their sportswear brand in 2020 with hopes of rivaling the Jordan brand. Now, for those of you who may not be aware of it, everybody knows the Air Jordan sneaker.
Yeah, nobody's going to beat that for a while, Tom.
No,
keep trying.
Yeah, Jimmy.
Yeah, Air Jordan is almost etched in stone, Tom. That brand.
Right. Since 1985, Peter Moore, who was the creative director of Nike, designed the Air Jordan 1, retailing at that time $65. And they were expecting to hopefully make $3 million across the first 3 years. And the shoe actually netted them $126 million in year one, as opposed to $3 million in over 3 years. And the rest is history, Jimmy. And there is not been
it's a multi-billion-dollar brand now, Tom.
What's that?
Air Jordan is a multi-billion-dollar brand now.
Yes, you're exactly right. And so Jordan's domination and popularity in the NBA revolutionized the sports apparel market. Steph Curry, now, of course, on the back end of his career, but is starting to build his own brand to compete with that of Jordan. And, of course, we wish him the best of luck.
Yes.
De'Aaron Fox is kind of an up-and-coming, young NBA All-Star, just getting the first nod of his first All-Star last year, averaged 25.6 assists and 4 rebounds. And he finished the season with the NBA's inaugural Clutch Player of the Year last year. So, of course, we wish Steph Curry and De'Aaron Fox much success and a lot of revenue, Jimmy, because as we've talked about before, we've got to build our own brands. We have to build our own institutions if we're going to control our own destiny.
Well, Tom, it'd also be nice if they somebody decided to build their own tennis shoe factory and put some of our people to work, but that's another story.
This is true.
I digress.
All right, let's go ahead and go to our next story. We're going to stay in sports for at least one more story, Jimmy, and we can talk about this because it's actually happening as we speak. The World Series is in Game 5.
Yes, I'm just checking the score. The rain is still tied 0-0 in the fourth. They're going to the top of the fifth, and the Rangers may be able to close this out tonight. Let's keep our fingers crossed.
Well, it should be an interesting game, Jimmy, because of course this is a must-have for the Arizona Diamondbacks. You know, the Rangers came out, won Game 1, and then the Diamondbacks blistered them in Game 2. And Jimmy, the last two, the Rangers have somewhat dominated. I presume you've probably been watching these games.
I have. I did not watch last night because I didn't know they were on. I thought it'd be Wednesday before the next game, so I missed that one. And then after the show, I'll be running to the media room to catch the rest of the game. Tom, we just had Faye pop up on our chat line, and I believe Faye can correct me, but I think I saw something on LinkedIn where she's maybe hosting an event for women. And so maybe we can have her on to talk about her event if it's upcoming.
Actually, you know, we've talked, and I think we should hopefully have a date for her where her and or possibly a group of other sisters very solid who will be talking to us about, you know, women within business and the economy. And so I'm hoping to hear back from you very soon. But to your point, we have a few more folks on the show tonight, the Business Solutions 360. What's going on? Thank you for joining us this evening. Miss Chastity Christian, our resident educator and guru. We want to thank, of course, her joining us. Miss Tanya Hall. Magic Johnson just made the 4th billionaire athlete by the Forbes magazine. So he is the 4th billionaire, and that's adding, of course, to Michael Jordan. That would be, of course, LeBron James. And who is the third, Jimmy?
She has Jordan here, LeBron, Tiger Woods.
Tiger Woods. Okay, that would be Tiger Woods. And then Magic Johnson is the 4th billionaire athlete in Forbes magazine.
Now, Tom, you know, when you can get a divorce, lose a big chunk of your fortune, and still make it to the billionaire status, that's saying a lot. So 2 of the 4 have been divorced.
Absolutely. So, hey, we'll see what happens. So 4 billionaires. Last time I checked, I think we had 12 billionaires within the Black community, and that's globally. So, you know, we've got a lot of room to grow in that space.
Yes.
I also want to make sure that we give a shout out to my good friend, Al-Kabilon, you know, of African Genius Podcast that talks about all things Pan-Africanism. And, of course, he joins us every week and is an ardent supporter of Black Men Speak. So we want to, of course, thank him.
Well, we should reach out to him, Tom, and have him on the show.
Oh, we are going to have him on the show. I think we talked about having him on to talk maybe towards the end of the year.
Okay.
So,
I believe you've done his show once, twice, haven't you?
Absolutely.
Okay, so yeah, let's get him on the show and let's talk about some of the things going on in Africa. Somebody that can provide some clarification for us.
Exactly, he can talk about quite a bit. So let's continue to move on with our stories for the day. But of course, we wish the Rangers, us being from Texas, the best of luck, and maybe just maybe they can pull this game out, and if not, the next game, so they can win their first.
We have a little breathing room, yes. We have a little breathing room.
In its 63-year history, they've never won a World Series. They've been to 2, but they've never won.
2010, 2011, we should have won one of those back then. So, but let's hope that we get this taken care of tonight. What's our next story, T?
All right, next story, Jimmy. You know, this is one that we did talk about maybe a couple of months ago. Jonathan Majors within the news, and not particularly for a good thing. He had been put up on charges for an assault case against, I guess, what is now his ex-girlfriend, Jimmy. Now, what it seems, which is kind of interesting to me, is that his accuser, his ex-girlfriend, actually turned herself in to the New York Police Department on assault charges and for whatever reason they let her go, and the attorney and the AD is not going to pursue charges.
Well, Tom, it's very, very seldom that women actually, or that you get a conviction against a woman for assaulting a man. And actually, this is a pretty common occurrence. It's just that men don't report the crime. A lot of times we hear that women underreport, assault charges and rape charges. I mean, rape um, incidents against them. But here's a case where men very seldom report assaults on them by their girlfriends or their significant others.
Right. So, I mean, Jonathan Majors' ex-girlfriend, Grace Jabari, turned herself into the police department, was arrested and charged on assault and criminal mischief, both misdemeanor charges. This is in the backdrop of Majors being arrested in March and accused of assaulting her. The district attorney said that he would not be prosecuting the case because it lacked prosecutorial merit, and the matter is now closed and sealed, not just closed, but sealed. So whatever evidence was there, whatever happened, people will not have access to that information.
And I'd be willing to bet, Tom, that he probably was the one who asked it to be sealed.
I don't know about that, Jimmy, because you know what? I can't say what he did or didn't say, but I do know this much. Whatever is going on right now, they're coming after him. His career has been put on hold. The major films that he's been in, either are put on hold, could possibly be torched. And he was probably one of the marquee actors in film, period. And this has stalled that. So, for what it's worth, I hopefully he gets justice, whatever that looks like, in the court of law. But I don't know that she would be turning herself in unless she did something that was worse.
Yeah, Tom, she may have beat him up. And if
Correct.
I got beat up by a woman, I may want to have the record sealed too. Because
Well,
people like you and I may be talking about it.
yeah, well, we'll say this much. I guess the key thing is whatever happened or didn't happen, we won't find out what
Well,
happened.
anyway, we wish him luck. I'm just joking.
Exactly. Because, I mean, again, you don't find him in too many bad films. Creed 3, Ant-Man and the Wasp. I wasn't crazy about the film, but, he did an excellent job, and he made the film. The Last Black Man in San Francisco. I mean, he was in a ton of movies, most of them good. And then he's also in a film, another Avengers film, The Kang Dynasty. So anyone who saw Ant-Man and the Wasp and who liked him in that, there's another Marvel film that's scheduled to come out. I don't have the date on it, called The Kang Dynasty. And man, I can't wait to see it. And I hope it does not get shelved for too long based upon what's going on here. So all that being said, I will say this, Jimmy. And I don't know how else to put this. But when you are dealing with certain women, you are at risk. And you just need to keep it at home. Because at the end of the day, this may not be a very popular thing to say, Jimmy, but you don't see too many brothers in sports and entertainment that are being prosecuted in the court of popular opinion when they with a sister.
Well, Tom, you know what? This is the other thing is that we I cover this. I have a separate collection of videos called the Ways of the Caveman, and it deals with how to produce, how to develop real men. And we have a problem here, Tom, is that we don't produce real men anymore. Masculinity is under attack. We call it toxic. And we've developed these really weak, feckless, sorry, pitiful men. And as a result, uh, as you clear out that space, women are becoming more emboldened to assume that space. And so this is kind of the issue, for me. So if we get back to, I'm not saying necessarily put women in their place, but if women wouldn't feel the need to be more manly if men were more manly. So we got to stop invading their space. Let Eve be Eve. Let Adam be Adam. And this is kind of where we are now. Because we blurring those lines by crossing over to the other side by both sexes.
I got it. All I'm saying is typically when you find a brother, whatever area he is in,
Tom, that's not totally true. Joe Smith is in the news right now.
How many? But again, when you look at it across the board,
okay,
it doesn't matter what endeavor. Typically, when this happens, is because brothers have crossed the tracks. They get hung out to dry, in the court of public opinion. You just typically you don't see this happening when this is in the family. Let's be honest about it, Jimmy. You
Well,
just don't
Tom, it's
see
not
that.
news when it's a sister. I mean, come on, let's face it.
Well, it's that they don't.
If a little black child gets kidnapped, nobody cares. Let a little white child get kidnapped, and the whole world stops. So it's the same thing with sisters. No one really cares unless she's beat down the elevator or something or knocked out. Otherwise, it's not
And it's
news.
not even advocating that, Jimmy. But what I'm saying is, brothers need to understand the value of those who look like their mother.
Tom, we need to understand the value of a good woman,
That's my
and
point, and that is
and
my point.
that comes that
Someone who
may
looks like their mother.
and preferably if you could do it with someone of your own kind, that'd be great. But a good woman is not the woman who's with you for material reason. She's
Of
trying
course,
to connect with you, not based on and not be with you for what you have. So
I agree.
when a woman is with you for what you have, this is kind of what happens, and that doesn't always end well. But if a woman's with you because she loves you, like Magic Johnson and his wife, I mean, you don't see them getting a divorce. I mean, she stuck
Correct.
with him through
Correct.
his sleeping around his hoeing days back in the NBA, his AIDS problem. But through thick and thin, through better for worse, hey, Cookie to me is a hero because she stuck it out, and she could have very easily been justified in filing for a divorce and leaving Magic a long time ago. So I mean, so you do have a point there, but I would advocate for men to work on trying to get good wives and produce good wives by being good husbands, rather than finding women who are clinching onto you for material reasons.
And you know what? This isn't even a part of our lineup tonight.
I know
But
we've
but
gotten
but,
off
but,
track.
but I found it very interesting that you bring that up because I just saw an article today, which we had already planned this show out, but that Michael Jordan's son, and I don't know if you saw this, is with Scottie Pippen's ex-wife,
Yes,
and
Tom, I
they're
know.
talking about marriage. And I'm
Yes,
like, okay, help me make the sense. And I understand he's a grown man; he can do whatever he wants to, but we didn't cover the story that I recall of Scottie Pippen and the breakup of his ex-wife, who happens to be from the other side of the tracks. It's okay, you love who you love, but obviously the love didn't last in order for them to file for a divorce or to prevent a divorce. And I know he lost a lot of his estate because of that. And now
yes.
he's with Jordan's son. My thing is this, Jimmy. Jimmy, let's be real. Would she be with Jordan's son if he wasn't Jordan's son?
No, she
Let's
wouldn't.
let's let's, let's just keep it 100.
Yes, she wouldn't.
Would she be with Jordan's son if it was Jordan's son is not Michael Jordan? Jordan's son is, I don't know that he ever played in the NFL, but what we do know, and I'm pretty sure what she does know, I'm not trying to be speculative here, is that potentially there's a massive estate.
Tom, it's a huge, it's a multi-billion-dollar estate when Jordan dies, and his son's going to get a good chunk of that. And so this is just a lottery ticket waiting to be cashed in. And unfortunately, there's no one to pull this young man aside and talk some sense into him. And this is where we are, Tom. This is what weak fathers and weak men will produce. They produce weak offsprings,
So
and
what
this is
you're trying to
sad.
say is that Michael Jordan is a weak
Yes, exactly what I'm saying. Tommy's
okay,
weak.
how do you call him a weak father producing a weak offspring?
Tom, his son. And look. If my son, which I have one, he's a knucklehead, although he is maturing, he's getting a little better. But if my son were to come to me one day and say, "Dad, this here's a woman that Tom used to date and or be involved with, and but she and I are getting married," I'd have to pull him to the side and have a good talk with him, because one, you don't do that. Out of respect, out of reverence for me, I mean, I wouldn't do that. I mean, Tom is like a brother to me, and I certainly wouldn't get involved with any woman that he was involved with or previously involved with, nor would my son get involved with any woman that he was involved with. Just out of respect, you just don't do it, Tom. There used to be a bro code. I mean, now everything is thrown out the window with this new woke crowd that where anything goes just about. So we need to get back to some normalcy and some decency, Tom. That is just not decent.
Well, again, I'm not going to say that there's anything. If you truly love someone, they happen to be someone a different race.
Not decent, Tom. I'm sorry. You got to go find somebody else.
I understand. I'm going to say this. But one thing that I would say, if we're going to be about the building of nations, if we're going to be about the building of institutions, then you have to build nations and you have to build institutions. You cannot neutralize them, you cannot water them down, but you have to be building your own institutions. And there is no more critical solution than building the institution of family. And we've talked about this on many occasions.
Right. And so, Tom, if I just felt, I just have a hard time believing that this young man prayed on this and this was the answer that he received. You know,
Can't say that,
you're
but
supposed,
but
you
kids are
know,
going to do what they want to do. That doesn't mean. Let's say if your son happened to make, he just made a decision that would be against, your values, what you taught. They made that decision.
okay, well, if you go against my values, I would still tell him to put God first in what you're doing, pray on this, make absolutely sure that God put this on your heart to do. And if that's the case, then do it. But if not, and I think if you get away from the distractions, Tom. If you really sit down in a quiet space and pray on this, God will deliver an answer to you because it's always come. That's always worked for me, and I don't think I'm that special to God where it doesn't work for everyone else also. And
And
so I doubt very seriously that this young man's put God first in his life to and put God first in this particular process.
well, I would say put God first and put the nation second.
I
I'll
mean,
put it
we
that
know what came first. This is, she just whipped it on him, and he's now infatuated and thinks he's in love, but these are just hormones, Tom.
yeah, but this is not just him. Let's be clear. It's
It's
not
not
just
just him, but
it's
he's the
her
most noteworthy.
because what she did was very strategic.
Yes.
She was with Scottie Pippen, married, divorced, and now she's with Scottie Pippen's teammates,
Well, so
son.
she's hitting the lottery twice, Tom, and I'm pretty
They're not
sure if
married.
you
They're not married. But again, come on, you can't see. I mean, as my father would say, Ray Charles could see that.
well, Tom, they're not married yet, but they're on the road to it. So
And so we got a couple of comments on this. Audrey Booker, Jordan may be wise enough to modify his assets in his will, considering the change of affair. And then we got Herman Winston, wash hands. So all that being said, we're going to keep an eye on this. I just thought that was very interesting when, I saw this, even if she was much younger than Scottie Pippen, it doesn't matter. But to go from Scottie Pippen to Jordan's son, that's one of those.
she did the lottery twice.
Well, we shall see. We shall definitely see. So I just don't think she would be with him if he were not Jordan's son. All right, let's go ahead and move on to our next story, Jimmy. Uh, got two interesting stories in the national news. 41
Okay.
states have sued mega tech giant Meta for targeting young people and what they consider to be helping to contribute towards a mental health crisis among youth in America
Well,
and
Tom, you know
globally for
what?
that matter.
This has been talked about with the advent of social media. There were the warnings were put out there. Everyone ignored them, said it wouldn't happen, and now it's happening. And not only that, Tom, is the social media companies, Meta being one of the biggest ones or the largest
If
one,
not the biggest, it is.
and they have, this is where the neuroscientists go to work. And, these folks who have the PhD in neurology, don't go in the medical field. They go work for the social media companies, and they sit down. They design these games, the reward systems. They get you hooked on coming back to their platform. That's their number one purpose, Tom. And this much interaction with social media, with a cell phone, with an iPad, a tablet, or your computer is not healthy. Kids are losing their ability to interact. You know, the old workforce. I mean, you're a salesperson. You're in that industry. You understand that's a business that requires personal interaction. You know what? Where are the young salespeople coming up these days? They aren't there. Where are the young people who do the jobs that require personal interaction? Everyone wants to sit at the computer, sit in their own little private space with their Play-Doh, and not get out and actually have a conversation with another person. It scares the hell out of them. And this is where we're headed, Tom. So everybody can't go off in a corner in a cave and hide behind a computer device. At some point, you're going to have to get out there and interact with someone. And so this kind of behavior that we're building in our society is antisocial. So yes, this is a mental illness that's being perpetrated on our kids. A whole new Gen Z, Gen Alpha, all these young kids. This is all they know now. This is all they know, Tom. I have a um, I have a young client that I'm working with, and he is absolutely terrified to death to go out in public or even go to a dinner party and interact, have a conversation with people. Scared to death. I mean, these are the things that we're dealing with Gen Zs and Gen Alpha.
Yeah, it is crazy. But a total of 33 states have sued in federal
It
court.
needs to be all states, Tom,
Yeah,
and parents.
nine attorney generals for a total of 41 and the Washington of D.C. Basically, their complaint is Meta has harnessed powerful and unprecedented technologies to entice, engage, and ultimately ensnare young youth
It's by
and teens.
design,
Its
yes.
motive, of course, is profit. Seeking to maximize financial gain, Meta has repeatedly misled the public about the substantial dangers of its social media platforms. It has concealed the ways in which young people can exploit and manipulate its way around setting up these accounts because it's illegal for young people under 13 to do this, but of course it's easy for them to do this. And the suit ultimately is seeking financial damages and restitution. And at the end, matters practice that are a violation of federal law. It says one internal study cited that 13.5% of teen girls saying Instagram makes thoughts of suicide worse. 17% of teen girls saying that it makes eating disorders worse. Now, I don't know if that's part of an argument, Jimmy, but that's what it's saying. It says using social media among teens is practically, of course, universal. This last generation, I guess we will call them Gen Z, practically born on social media. And they and most of them in studies say they use it almost constantly, which means, Jimmy, they probably cannot wake up, live, or breathe without
Sure, Tom.
getting on social media.
And so I know they're going after Meta because they have deep pockets.
Of
But Tom,
course.
you know what else you need to go after? The parents who allow this to happen. I mean, if you just need a communication device, a cell phone, then there are cell phones that do not connect to the internet, don't have a data plan, that you can limit the interaction of your children with social media. And so the parents are just as guilty as the companies who are exploiting these kids because they're allowing their kids to be exploited. But you
Yeah.
know who doesn't, Tom, allow their kids on
The
social
wealthy.
media?
The wealthy.
Is that the big executives from Google.
Right.
Their kids are pen and paper. They don't have calculators. They don't have cell phones. They don't have a tablet. And these are the wealthiest, biggest tech execs in the world. Do not allow their kids to use the same technology that they push on other kids.
Well,
So that
Jimmy,
should let you know something.
they understand the risk associated with their children being addicted
They
to
absolutely
social.
do, Tom.
And so they make sure that their kids, when young people grow up on this, their brains, their
Get wired
neurons,
for it.
they
It's an
are
addiction.
literally like a drug, literally crack cocaine. I mean, I don't know which would probably be more difficult for them to put down crack cocaine, for them to put down a phone.
Probably put down crack cocaine, Tom. The brain is wired for efficiency. So things that it finds pleasurable or a good result at some point becomes automatic. Like you walk into a dark room, you don't have to think about hitting the light switch. You automatically know to hit the light switch and turn the lights on because your brain is already wired to do that. You've done it so many times, you've gotten the result that you wanted so many times that you don't have to think about it anymore. That's how you go through life. That's how we're wired. Neuroscientists know this. They know if they reward you enough times and get you to do that action over and over, then eventually you will be wired to and so you're more addicted to social media than you are to crack cocaine.
And that is unimaginable, but very believable given the circumstances, because the number one issue for young people in this day and age is depression,
Yes.
mental health issues. Everybody, mental health issues, depression, thoughts of suicide. This has been a slow tidal wave that is coming, Jimmy. And how do you reverse it now? What do you do?
Well, Tommy, at some point to get off the addiction of drug addiction or alcohol addiction or whatever your vice is, you have to stop it. I mean, there's just no easy way to get around it. So you're going to have to parents need to get your kids focused on what's most important, and social media is not it.
And so, Jimmy, this is, I guess, it's something likened to when Ray, the movie Ray, and he had to give up drugs and he had to go into a rehab facility and he was in that bed and, he was going through all of these,
Withdrawals.
withdrawal symptoms, and it was, extremely painful for him to not have that drug in his system, but that was what he was going through, withdrawal symptoms. And so what you're saying in essence is that you're going to have to go through withdrawal symptoms. But Jimmy, how permanent is it when your brain has been wired to get
Well,
this?
Tom, it can be done, but here's the thing, though. Parents give these devices to their kids in order to placate them and pacify them because they don't want to parent. They don't want to do the hard work of having to interact with their kids, turn their TV off, give up their personal time to interact with their kids and parent. And so this is where we are. This is why I say that okay, the states are going after these AGs are going after Meta because they have deep pockets. But you know what they should go after? We should add like if you're under 18 and you have a data plan, add another $20, $30 to the plan as the parent lazy tax, because you're not doing your job. Add another $50 to the data plan if you're under 18. And let's see if that doesn't get parents' attention to put a stop to this.
Yeah, but something has to be done, and it starts at home. And that's the only solution because you can't expect a multi-billion-dollar enterprise to do anything other than what is in their own financial interest. So as a parent, ultimately the buck stops with parents, those who have young people in their lives.
Another reason we need strong fathers in the household also, Tom, to put their foot down and say enough is enough. Somebody has to be the authority in the household to say when enough is enough. And obviously, this current system that we have is not doing a good enough job. And we keep turning to government to fix our problems, home problems. And I'm telling you, parent people, listeners, viewers, that's not the answer. Because if Meta pays a big fine, so what? They'll just continue to do it. They'll find a way to work around this. But your children are still jacked up as a result of this. So we need a strong presence in the house. And Tom, you know what? I'm not trying to put this on mothers because mothers have enough work, managing households sometimes by themselves. Fathers need to come back home, get their act together, and start parenting their children. You help produce them, so help raise them. Even if you're not with the mother, you still need to be actively involved in your children's life. And this is a danger time. It was predicted years ago before the advent of just when social media was coming into its own. Now we've seen the result of it. We see how bad it is, how nefarious it is, and the people who profit the most off of it are only doubling and tripling down on it. They have no interest whatsoever. They protect their kids from it, but they're not going to protect your children from it because they make too much off of it. And
Well,
if you don't care about your own children to do something about it, don't expect someone else or the government to protect your children. It's not going to happen.
that I would agree with, Jimmy. We're definitely on the same page there. But ultimately, what goes on in your household, you have control over, and that's a part of parenting, making decisions, being accountable. You cannot always be your child. You cannot be your child's friend when you are their parent. But this is another show, Jimmy. One thing that we have to acknowledge is that our generation was that generation who decided to. I'm not going to do the things that my
Our
parents
parents
did,
did, yes.
that actually worked, Jimmy. That
That
actually
worked.
worked.
That
But we
worked.
decided not to do those with our kids, and look at what the results are.
Well, Tom, I can think back to my childhood and the kids who had parents that parent the way parents parent today are either dead or in jail. The kids who grew up with parents in the household who
With
cared and
structure.
took with some structure and a
Yes.
belt, who took care of matters, those kids are successful today and happy for it. And so it's amazing that we came out of that time determined not to be our parents and look at the results of it. Now it's time to go back to being our parents. And if your parents are still alive, you may want to go back and have a conversation with them and think back and get some parenting lessons as to what you should and should not be doing. Because,
There there is an old biblical saying, Jimmy, spare the rod,
yes, you spoil the
spare
child,
the
Tom.
child. It was very clear. And I'm not, what we're not advocating is that parents should be abusive. please make sure that we're not saying being abusive to your children. But even the Bible says, spare the rod, spoil the child. As a parent, you have to understand you cannot always be their friend. You have to discipline your child. Parent has a purpose, a function, and a meaning.
Well, Tom, and the belt is a good motivator. You'll be surprised how much homework and study you get done when there's a belt hanging over your head, and you know the consequence of not getting it done,
True,
not getting your chores done.
true.
So that belt motivation needs to always be in place.
Yeah, Jimmy, and as much as I didn't get a whole lot of whippings because I didn't do a whole lot to get whippings. After you get those first two, Jimmy, you was like, you know what? I'm not going to do that anymore. And so you learn after you get those good butt whippings, and then when you get older, you got something to tell to your children. It's like, you know
Yeah.
what? Something happened right. It worked for me, and it's gonna work for you too. And as Grandma used to say, this is gonna hurt me a whole lot more than it hurts
Yeah,
you.
that's what they would say,
And,
Tom.
and,
It never quite
and,
felt that way, though. Like it felt like it hurt me more than it hurt you, but that's what they would say. This is gonna hurt people more than it's gonna hurt you, Tom. So I only got one good whooping in my life, and that was enough for me. So to know that that's not what I wanted the rest of my life. So I
either
need
that,
to.
Jimmy, or just don't get caught doing nothing stupid.
That's what I did. I was smart about it. I always planned my exit and my getaway plan before I planned the crime. So it's more important to figure out how you're going to get away with it before you actually did it. And if you couldn't figure out a good way to get away with it, don't do it.
Jimmy,
Now-
that's what you call strategic thinking. That belt actually taught us
oh,
strategic thinking.
yes.
All right, Jimmy. Well,
What's our next story? Do we have another story?
just giving an update. It's the end of the sixth,
It's
Jimmy.
still zero
It's
zero,
still
Tom. I'm
zero
checking the
zero. So
score now.
obviously, it's going to be a ballroom brawl. So, all right, next story, Jimmy. You know, I saw this story, pretty interesting. Sister and her husband were trying to have more children. They go to the CVS pharmacy in
Oh,
Las
this is a
Vegas,
sad story,
in
T.
Nevada, and she's trying to get pregnant. Was supposed to get fertility pills and didn't know. Unfortunately, she got the opposite.
Tom, I don't know how this mistake happens from a licensed pharmacist. You've gone to school for this. You've gone to pharmacy school, unless it's some pharmacy tech that's in there dispensing medicine. But even then, I believe that the licensed pharmacist is supposed to check before this stuff goes out. And I
What?
think they're even required to consult with you to make sure that you know what you're taking, you know how to take it, and that you fully understand what this is and how to take it before I give it to you. How in the world could they end up with the wrong medicine? Especially not just wrong medicine, Tom. It's one thing if I'm supposed to get fertility pills and you give me aspirins or you give me
But she
something
got
for
abortion
ulcer.
pills.
You're getting you're getting abortion pills, Tom, when you're trying to get pregnant. Come on.
In the story, Tamika Thomas, God bless her, and her family was trying to use in vitro fertilization to get pregnant a
Hmm.
couple years ago. After removing her fallopian tubes, her and her husband paid for the procedure out of pocket. That's what makes bad worse. They paid for this out of pocket because their insurance didn't cover it. And CVS gave, instead of fertility supplements prescribed by the doctor, gave her abortion pills, which of course, destroyed any possibility that she could get pregnant. Something basically that was supposed to trick her body into producing enough hormones to kickstart her pregnancy. And they gave her misoprostol, which is used as a medical abortion. Of course, they filed a complaint with the Nevada State Board of Pharmacy. I think they got $10,000.
That's it?
$10,000. Basically, the pharmacist failed to explain to Thomas what to expect from the medication. But what they're saying is that they couldn't read the doctor's handwriting.
Well, sometimes
And make an
handwriting is
answer.
bad, Tom, but you know what? That's when you pick the phone up and you call their office to verify when you can't read the
And
handwriting.
obviously, they didn't do that. And so CVS issued an apology, but obviously she lost a whole heck of a lot than what an apology can do for her.
And then, Tom, you know that I mean, who writes paper prescriptions anymore? A lot of
That's
stuff
that's the other thing I
electronically
didn't quite
filed.
understand. That's the other thing I didn't
These
understand.
things are all done electronically now. So who still writes with a pen and pad? But if you can't read the handwriting, pick the phone up and call the office. Don't feel it. You're gonna tell me you're just gonna guess at this? I mean, you're making your best educated guess as to what to put in the bottle and give to someone, to the public, when you admitting that you couldn't understand the handwriting. Oh, tell me you should lose your license for that. You should be kicked out of the damn profession for doing something that sloppy.
And of course, the big billion-dollar businesses are protected. So $10,000. I mean,
Is nothing for
that's
CVS
that's probably what they make
a day.
in less than an hour. $10,000. So I mean, when you look at the insurance payments and things and everything else, these pharmacies getting. You're talking about CVS. Two of the blue bloods, and I think they're under the same umbrella, Walgreens and CVS. I'm not exactly sure, but I mean, $10,000 is nothing. But
Tom, who's the brother? Who's the lawyer? I can't think of his name out of Florida, but you see him on just about every civil rights case. He's representing a young girl out of Alabama who filed a false police report, is facing jail time. But he's been in a number of high-profile cases. You know what I'm talking about?
yeah, yeah, I'll think of his name in a couple of minutes, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, they should call that brother, man, because he gets results. $10,000 is not enough to teach them a lesson. That's not going to be an impact enough. They should be looking at $10 million for what they've done. You're going to lose your chance to have a child over this mistake. I'm sorry, it doesn't quite cut it. And to do
Yeah,
something this reckless,
Benjamin Crump,
yeah, that's him.
Ben Crump.
So if anybody have any connection to this family, tell them to call Ben. I hope they didn't sign a settlement agreement already. But call Ben Crump and ask him to get involved and take a look at this. You know, maybe just maybe, he can get some justice for his family. Although no dollar amount is going to be able to replace their ability to have a child.
Very true, Jimmy. And now we'll go to our international story
Okay.
for the week. And I know, we're always talking about things that are going on because we have to understand that we have to be global in nature. I'm going back to an old Malcolmism, is that, our story, our plight, and our solution is looking at a global approach. And so we've talked about a lot of what's going on the African continent. And we just found out, I was looking at an interesting article where Kenya, the president of Kenya, announced that they are now going to eliminate visa requirements for all other African nationals who are coming to Kenya.
Well, Tom, you know what? The entire continent should do that. That's a good first step.
Yes,
They should actually take a page from the Europeans and the EU, where they have pretty much open borders and free travel between EU members. So the African nations should all do the same time and follow suit, or most of them should. That will open up commerce and trade like they've never seen before.
right.
But Kenya can't be the only nation doing this. So hopefully they're leading the way, and hopefully others will follow Tom. And let's see what happens afterwards.
Right, you're right. And again, of course, again, Kenyan President William Ruto, who was really just recently elected, announced the removal of visa requirements for all African countries, African nationals by the end of this year. So that's coming up pretty soon, emphasizing the need to eliminate restrictions among African nations, stating basically they're counterproductive, not good for business. And so this allows or opens up the opportunity to do a lot more business with other African countries. Hopefully, Jimmy, this is just the beginning. There are only a few countries that had open borders in Africa, including Seychelles, the Gambia, and Benin, that permit entry to all other African citizens without using a visa.
Okay.
So, this is great news. Hopefully, I'm pretty sure there are going to be some consequences and repercussions, but hopefully, as it pertains to business, entrepreneurship, and or other tourist travelers, that this will open up and generate more revenue revenue for the country, and they'll be able to compete, with the Nigerias of the world, which has the largest economy on the African continent right now.
So let's keep our fingers crossed and hope that happens. Tom, we're out of time now. Hey, I'll flash the email address. People, if you have a story or information you want to share, have us to put out there for you, please email us and let us know. This is your show just as well as it's ours. So we're interested to hear from you. Tell us what you want to hear, and we can certainly make sure we put it on our schedule to talk about it. With that being said, Tom, I'll give you the last word and let's say good night.
Good evening, everyone. Look forward to seeing everyone next week, Wednesday, because if it's Wednesday night, of course, it is
Yes,
Black
sir.
Men Speak. Good
That's
night, everyone.
correct. Good night.
Go